Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I'm your host Ashwin. I'm joined by DJ. DJ, it's a Sunday afternoon at the time of recording, or evening for you now. Usually you're playing cricket. Are you not playing today? Is all the sporting fever mean that's all the world of sport activity that's going on means you guys got a break from cricket? Because I think you scored an insane century or something last week. We're going to talk Sunday League first before we get to what's really happening in the world of cricket. How are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay, man. We are in.
You get dropped after a century? Is that what happened?
No, I mean, that would be pretty harsh. That would be kind of like a Ambati Raidu type of treatment.
Karun Nair triple century.
Hemang Badani, he's the actual guy. I think he scored 100 once and got dropped. No, we don't have a game this weekend. That's okay. So I've got a game next weekend, so I probably won't make the podcast next weekend. Yeah. But I mean, I got lucky to get some runs this season.
I mean, not out at the end, made a phenomenal. And anyway, lots in the world of sport, but I feel like India has, since we last recorded, played a T20, tied the T20. We'll spend a lot of time talking about that one because it's ridiculous. Obviously, won it a super over. Then played an ODI and said, you know what, we kind of like this tie business. Why don't we do it again? Got another tie, but no super over in the ODI, which is interesting. So the match just ended tied. And then absolutely got pummeled. But to be honest, there's so much happening in the world of sport. India has just beaten Great Britain in and I don't know why the Olympics is played as Great Britain instead of England or the UK. You can probably explain that better than most, why football is played as England, but the Olympics is played as Great Britain. But anyway, India won in hockey, so is now one win away from a medal, which is going to be awesome. I think they won in Tokyo as well, so that's going to be great. Novak Djokovic has just won an Olympic gold medal for the first time. So I've been overwhelmed, honestly, with sport. I've been watching swimming and fencing and, of course, archery and shooting and stuff where India's had some Olympic hopefuls and a couple of bronze medals. But yeah, have you been watching much of the India-Sri Lanka cricket series? It sort of feels, I guess I should start by saying LA 2028, in 4 years, cricket will be in the Olympics. So we won't have this world where, for the first time, right? Or first time returning since 1900 or something when they played it. We don't have this world where there's amazing gold medal matches on TV, and yet you got to pan over to Colombo to watch 50 over cricket. So, yeah, how do you feel it's been going?
So, actually, it's been fine because, of course, the T20 games didn't really clash with the Olympics proper. I've been watching a lot of the gymnastics, the swimming, so I've started identifying some of the
swimming has been amazing.
Yeah, it has been great, including the Chinese swimmer that broke the world record and was immediately accused of cheating by his Western counterpart, which is pretty ridiculous, frankly. No, the cricket 50 over game, right? So it's actually quite nice because you can switch over to other sports, come back, and not much has changed. So this morning I watched the hockey, which was an absolutely, I mean, hats off to Sledges and team, man. I mean, unbelievable composure, unbelievable stamina. They were down to 9 men against 11 at one point. And we're not a hockey podcast, but I think this was one of the most exciting matches I've ever watched. They managed to take it to penalties. And the penalties, the way the Indian players executed those was just, it was clinical and it was beautiful to watch. And yeah, I mean, I live in England, which is part of Great Britain. Not to be confused with the United Kingdom.
But I'm not crazy, right? The FIFA World Cup, you have England. The Cricket World Cup, you have England because Scotland plays separately.
No, England and Wales, don't forget. It's England
and Wales. But
Wales plays football separately, though.
In the Olympics, they all play together under the Great Britain flag.
Correct.
Which is a whole different thing. Because in the Olympics, you have like Puerto Rico, which is part of the American.
Andy Murray's been playing for Great Britain, but he's Scottish.
Yeah. Anyway, keep going. Yeah.
Watch the hockey. Tune back into the cricket. Sri Lanka did pretty well today. But we should talk. I mean, we're going all over the place, to be honest. Maybe we should try some structure to this. The 50 over games that we've watched, they've been pretty close. I predicted the 3-0 whitewash in the T20 series, so I'm pretty happy that one came true.
Does it count? About. Do you get that? So if you're placing a bet in countries where betting is legal, a tie and super over win doesn't mean you win the bet. You don't lose it; you get your initial money back.
Yeah,
but it's a push.
What's the series score say?
Yeah, it will say 3-0, but super over feels like a kind of cheating way. And did you also predict? No, Varun predicted 3-0 in the ODIs, and he's already wrong.
Yeah, but
because there's no chance. Even I predicted 2-1, which is technically gone now.
No, not going to happen, is it?
Best case scenario for India is 1-1, but yeah.
Now, we should talk the T20, though, because what's been defining in this tour has been the pitches. And I've kind of enjoyed these low-scoring games. So let's talk the T20 game.
Let's talk about it. Varun and I chatted, and I asked him, and I think we both knew it was unlikely, but I said, listen, if it was your team and your Gambhir coming in, etc., after 2-0, what do? Do you persist a little, start to have these guys start to cement their foundation as a team under Sky, younger team, etc.? Or do you say, we won the series 2-0, let's make some changes? And Varun said, I would like to see them persist. And of course, they made 4 changes. Rishabh went out. Samson ended up keeping. Akshar, Hardik, both all-rounders out. In came Shivam Dubey and Washington Sundar. And then Arshdeep went out and Khalil came in. So, I mean, interesting. Obviously, we said already it ended in a tie. India made 137. Sri Lanka absolutely should have chased it down. Absolutely should have chased it down. I think the equation at one point, which feels very, very, very familiar, needed 30 off 30. Not only 30 of 30, which is very recent and very familiar, but actually it was 9 wickets in hand. Yeah. And very interesting to see when it was 24 needed. When it was 30 of 30, the choice of bowlers and how they finished. But we'll come back to that. The first thing I want to ask you about the batting, not a lot to write home about. Again, tough pitches. Shubman got some runs. Lower order made some runs. Sanju Samson, back-to-back ducks. So I think he's now got 2 opportunities this series and made 0 in 5 balls, out twice. Varun and I talked briefly last week. What do you do with this guy? He's so freaking good in the IPL and an excellent skipper. And yet repeatedly, I'm being harsh because he has had good performances in Indian colours, but yet repeatedly he wears the Indian jersey and seems like a completely different player. It's hard luck, or is it just the nature of not getting many opportunities so that when you do, you're not fully ready, and then you just, I don't know, what are your thoughts on Samson, I guess is my question.
Yeah, the trouble with like these trophies, these bilateral trophies, is you play 2-3 games, you get a couple of games and he's got another break and you've forgotten what he's done. So you're judged a little bit by your numbers, right? And T20 is a game like that. You could get a couple of ducks in a row. I think Sky at one point, maybe it was one-dayers, picked up 3 ducks in a row at one point.
Yeah.
And you can get on a bad streak. I don't think there's no question about his class or his caliber or his capability, right? Like Sanju Samson can take on the best bowlers in the world and deposit them all over the park. I think it's a question of him. The issue, right, for Sanju is that he feels the pressure of having to displace the incumbent wicketkeeper, which will be Rishabh Pant. And you listed out the various replacements. It's all like-for-like replacements. So Sanju Samson is auditioning directly for Rishabh Pant's spot. And if Rishabh Pant is fully fit, he's a World Cup T20 winner. Yeah. And he's not really in the ODI reckoning. We should come to that as to why he's not. But I think Samson felt a little bit of pressure. And maybe that's told against him. He's a good enough player to make this team just as a batter, to be honest, as a T20 batter. He doesn't need to be a keeper. It's a bonus he can keep. But as long as Pant is in form and fit and in the side, it's difficult for him to break through. So I think he feels a bit of that pressure because it feels like no matter what he does, he will still be behind Rishabh. And that doesn't help him when he doesn't do anything at all.
Yeah, and I mean, as now you've observed in the ODIs, they've prioritized KL Rahul. Obviously, Gambhir's first stint as ODI coach, Rohit and as captain. They're trying to look to the 25 Champions Trophy. That's just how these cycles work, right? The minute the T20 World Cup ended, they're thinking, what do we want to be doing in ODIs for the 2025 Champs Trophy? Now, didn't start very well, and we'll come to the ODIs, but you don't really see Samson in that setup either. So if he's not able to cement a position either as a batter or as a wicketkeeper batter, short of Pant being injured, it looks tough for him. And yes, you can sit here and say 14 IPL games he does well, 2 outings on India colours he doesn't, but that's the nature of this game. I mean, that's That's the nature of the sport, right? In the Olympics, you train for 4 years, and then sometimes in the gymnastics, the events are like 8 seconds long, and you fall, you miss one grip on a bar or something, and that's the end of your season. So,
and the Samson tragedy is that even if he'd scored, say, 50 of 25, would that have guaranteed him a spot in the next starting 11?
Yeah, no, it just creates more questions and more headaches. And at this point, he hasn't created a headache, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But like I said, India went on to make 137. I want to relive the last bit of it with you because the ODIs don't have that much exciting to talk about. So we're going to go through the T20s together, DJ. I said 30 of 30. Ravi Bishnoi, I think, has 2 overs left, or has his last over left. And Sky throws it to him. Okay? He manages to get Kusal Mendes out, 43, who made 43 great runs. Both the Kusals batting at this point, Mendes and Pereira. And he gets Kusal Mendes out, right? And finishes his spell, 23 of 24 needed. Washington Sundar, at this point, has also 1 over left. By the way, if I'm looking down at the scorecard, I think at this point you had our specialist bowlers. So Khalil had
1, yeah.
Had 1 left. Had 2 left, excuse me. Siraj had 1 left. And Sundar and Bishnoi, who I mentioned, had 1 each left, right? So you had 2 quick specialist bowlers, but obviously the pitch was spinning, like you mentioned, etc. Okay, so Washington Sundar comes in, great decision, it looks like, picks up 2 wickets. Hasaranga gets out, Asalanka gets out on a duck, collapse seems like it's on, finishes over, 21 needed of 18. You still have 2 Khalil overs left, and you have a Siraj over. So logically, you're going probably Khalil, Siraj, Khalil, finish it off. Okay, 21 of 18. You know what happens. Everybody who's listening knows what happens. Khalil comes on. I'm going to just run through this quickly. Single, wide, and they ran. Single, wide, single, double, wide, dot, and single. I mean, what?
In the death overs, he did this recently against the Rajasthan Royals as well. Do you remember, for Delhi?
It's just unbelievable.
He bowled so many wides at the death because I think he's trying to execute a plan, but it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had 1 over left at the end. That's what. Because the logical thing would have been for him if he'd bowled this one well to get him the last over.
Yes, so he hasn't bowled this one well, and now you're thinking, as Sky is a new captain, you went from potentially defendable to 9 of 12. You have a Siraj over, you have a Khalil over. Obviously, you can't bowl right away. For anybody who happened to have missed it, what did Sky do at this point? Who did he call?
I think he took his team sheet. And he's like, this game is gone anyway. I'm just going to point to the next team on the team sheet and give them the ball. And they can have an over and we'll all go home.
And lo and behold, to the batter who's been at the crease for more than half the innings at this point, Kusal Pereira is on strike. The off-spin of Rinku Singh comes on to get the ball in the penultimate over of the game. This isn't even the weirdest part. Dot ball, wicket. Kusal Pereira, who's been batting for this. And this is how it goes. And you see the camera pan to Gambhir. Gambhir's got this cheeky smile on his face. Rinku cotton bowled, gets the wicket. Then single, double, dot, gets another wicket. So at this point, Sri Lanka went from 9 of 12 to 6 of 6. And Rinku Singh's statistics read 1 over, 2 for 3. Absolutely brilliant. 20th over, you're thinking now, Siraj or Khalil, both available. But Rinku's kind of come out of nowhere and pulled off some magic as well. But with spin, you just get notified, by the way, it's slow. Your over rate was slow enough, so you're only allowed 4 guys outside. Siraj is warming up, ready to go. And what happens again? Is it another team sheet of point, or what's going on at this point with 6 to defend?
I don't know. Like, Sky is just like, okay, I've been slow with the field placing, so I'll take the last over and I'll take all the blame for this loss. Is the only thing I can think of. I think
never
he's bowled
ever
like 5 overs in his domestic career. So I don't know how much he's bowled in his domestic career.
He has never ever taken a T20 wicket before, or T20I wicket at least. He has bowled in ODIs. He has bowled 12 balls. In IPL cricket, he has bowled 12 balls. 1 over 0 for 8 in IPL, 1 over 0 for 17 in ODIs, and I don't have these domestic stats just in front of us.
No, but after 2007 and the Joginder Sharma pick for the last over against Pakistan in the final at Joburg, this was almost certainly the most left field pick for
the difference only
final over.
It was a bilateral where we had won the series. I mean, that Joginder was a little more at stake,
Correct, but all the T20s played between then and now, can you think of one more left field pick that has come off?
No, absolutely not. So Sky kicks the ball himself, bowls a dot ball, gets a wicket. Rinku Singh, actually, who bowled the penultimate over, catches this one off of a reverse slog, like absolutely horrendous shot. Goes to 6 from 4, and he gets the next wicket again. Down leg side, brushes the glove, good catch from Samson. And now Sky's on a hat-trick, doesn't get it. Gives up a single, 2, and then 2 again on the last ball. And Sky has now bowled. So Rinku Singh's figures read 1 over, 2 for 3. Sky's now read 1 over, 2 for 5. I mean, from 30 off 30 with it sounds like you wouldn't write this story because people would say this is insane. Nobody would ever do this. But Rinku and Sky bowled the last couple of overs. Obviously goes to a super over, and they don't give it to either of those guys. They give it to who was the best spinner on the day, and that was Washington Sundar. Picked up 2 for 23 in his 4 overs. Ends up bowling a wide, gives a single, and then gets 2 wickets in 2 balls. And remember, in a super over, you don't get to face all 6 balls if 2 wickets fall. So they get all out for 2. And then Sky, the bowler who bowled last over, walks out with Gill, hits a boundary for the first ball, and finishes it off. I mean, so I guess DJ, unbelievable. Fun to kind of relive, but unbelievable to see how that all worked, right? India was 30 for 4, 48 for 5, makes 137 things of lower order.
But Parag played well, by the way, both with the bat and the ball.
Played excellent knock by Riyan Parag. And Varun and I talked quite a bit about him last week. Great series overall for him in tough conditions. I mean, a good win. I mean, I don't know what to say about it, to be honest. I guess my question for you is, Gambhir, we talked a lot about Gambhir and what we think he'd bring and his tonality against older players, etc. before. Is this a Gambhir thing? Is this a Sky thing? Is it both? Were they really truly just having some fun and it worked and now they're going to say, or is it truly the effect that Varun has talked about on the show for many, many, many years, which is you need 7 or 8 guys who can play all around. So even if Rinku will bowl very, very rarely, having him as an option, having Sky as a bowling option changes your potential 11 significantly. Thought?
I mean, it's a totally different way of playing T20 cricket from the way we've been playing it in the past. I think Riyan Parag is had a great series. I think a lot of this, and I'm sure you know the stats better than I do, and you must have talked them in the first 2 T20s as well. Sri Lanka has collapsed in every single T20. Their middle order hasn't fired. They've melted under the pressure, and over here as well, they lost 9 for 31.
Yeah, 30, I think.
Or something.
30, yeah. 29, I guess, right? They needed 30 to win, so 29.
Yeah, so absolutely absurd, like chasing behavior. And it's not even like, remember, there's no Jasprit Bumrah or Mohammad Shami playing in this game. So, I mean, it would have been a totally different kettle of fish, I think, if that had happened. But no, I think Sri Lanka contributed to their demise to a large extent in this game. Equally, they're probably too shocked when they got to the super over. They hit 2 balls, both to the fielders, and that was the end. And then Sky hits 1 shot, as you said, and they misfielded. It should have been a dot ball, but it's all for 4, and that's the end of the game. And just sloppy, shabby. You kind of feel for Sanju Jasuria sitting in that dugout watching this go. He's like,
yeah, it's very, very difficult. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that game was gone with 9 of 12.
Yeah.
And Sri Lanka probably relaxed a little bit at that point. And
I mean, it felt like one of those each side was giving it back, right? When Khalil came into bowl, it didn't look so bad. 21 to defend an 18, a tough wicket. And then he gave away 12, half of which were wides. I mean, we were just throwing it at each other. And then Sky, I can't believe Sky and Rinku bowled the last 2 overs. It just changes the whole dynamic. That's the
genius, isn't it?
I agree fully.
You feel, I don't know, you feel like Sky is a captain that will try random stuff
Yeah.
And that was obviously the Dhoni touch, that he would just do random things at the right time. I'm not comparing the two because obviously one is very early on in his career.
Yeah.
And how many seconds had it been since we spoke about Dhoni?
About 19 minutes, so it's pretty good. 20 minutes.
That's not too bad. He's almost about to
That's
retire.
pretty long, actually.
Unless CSK change the rules just to retain him as an uncapped player.
That is also potentially going to happen. But maybe next week we'll talk about everything that's going to happen with the
But
IPL
3-0 win, great start for the Gambhir Sky combo, right?
Agreed. 3-0 win, good for Sky. I mean, scrappy in some parts, but honestly, we have been yearning in T20. I mean, if you could have told me at the start of the summer we would have won the T20 World Cup and been able to gift that, if you will, to Rohit and Kohli, and them both, and Jadeja, and them all say, all right, thanks, we're done now. Now we're letting the young blood come in. Young blood comes in, Sky picks up captaincy, pick up a scrappy but efficient 3-0 win on the back, in tough conditions, on the back of trying new things. That's best case scenario for me from a T20 side standpoint. We got to do both those things, which was awesome.
Yeah, and nice for Washi to come in and pick up his man of the match, right?
Agreed. Well deserved. All right, DJ, we talked more about the T20 than we thought. We're going to take a very quick break. We'll be right back after this to talk about the ODIs, which are a little less exciting. So I saved less time for them. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I said this many, many, many times. I say it every episode, but we are at One Tip, One Hand on all the socials, anywhere you want to get us. And we're One Tip, One Hand. That's the number one tip, number one hand at gmail.com for any emails as well. Reach out. We always love to hear from you. We're talking about the India versus Sri Lanka series. DJ, come into the ODIs very quickly then. Rohit Sharma comes back in. Virat Kohli comes back in. Not a lot of surprises in terms of the 11, except maybe one. So I'll run down the 11 that played in the first ODI, and then I'll get your point of view. So Rohit and Shubman opening, Virat 3, Shreyas 4, KL Rahul 5, Shivam Dubey 6, and Washington Sundar got his look at 7. Then you had Akshar at 8, Kuldeep 9, and then Arshdeep and Siraj to round out the two quick spots. So Rishabh misses out, Khalil misses out, and Riyan Parag and Harshit Rana, who were in the squad, didn't get a look in for the first game. Were you happy with that? 11 is, you're thinking that Rahul at 5 is the move, and maybe Rishabh's playing the two more extreme formats of our sport in the T20s and tests, but they're saying Rahul is that good in ODIs and they want to keep him. Thoughts?
I think Rahul is good in ODIs and you would like to keep him, but why, if you have Rishabh Pant on the bench, would you?
And I didn't hear, maybe he was injured, fatigued, etc. After we take for granted that he's back from what could have been a career-ending injury not so long ago. So it's possible after the T20s they wanted to give him a little bit more time, but I'm not sure if that was it.
I don't know. I think he was dropped for KL being the first choice keeper. KL kept well during the World Cup, don't get me wrong. I mean, KL, I think, captained India in the South Africa series as well and was keeper captain. He did well. But if you have Rishabh back, fully fit and firing, to have that kind of firepower sitting on the bench, to me, Pant is a game changer, man. Yes, we call the Rishabh Pant show, but and we've always been massive fans, and the reason for that is he can change a game in a few overs, and that is worth its weight in gold on kind of low scoring pitches. You saw that against Pakistan in the T20 World Cup, where we struggled to 119, where he got 42 of 31 with 1,000 chances, but he took those chances, his chances down, and he's got the skill to pull it off more often than not. He's like that guy, Pant reminds me of that guy in gully cricket who's like, okay, so you moved a fielder from here to there. I'm going to hit it there where you moved the fielder from. Yeah. And Pant is good enough to do that in international cricket. Yeah. That's the amazing part of him. So I'm very interested to see whether he comes in for the third ODI, because India are now staring at a series defeat. We'll get to that. But I was disappointed not to see Pant there. Whose spot does he take is the question, right? With Pandya not playing ODIs, Dubey is playing. We should talk about Dubey's spot as well. Shreyas Iyer is the other potential player that could miss out. I would pick, to be honest, between Iyer and Pant, I would pick Pant. And then it's actually a toss-up between KL and Shreyas, not Pant and KL for me.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, not quite enough, I think, in these first two ODIs, especially given the conditions to make selections off of one going. But I think your point is valid and interesting. So very quick, 230 from Sri Lanka, got half centuries from Nisanka, and then lower order from Dunit Wellalage, who just had an absolutely outstanding knock. I mean,
he was also given out first ball, I think, to Washington. He was given
was
out,
he? I missed that.
And he reviewed, and he was saved by the review.
I mean, to walk in at 101 for 5 and see more wickets fall on the other end at 140, 170-ish, make 67 at over 100, over a run of ball when nobody else struck anywhere close.
He was outstanding, honestly. Like, he was reverse sweeping Washi, he was cover driving the spinner. The ball was spinning big. Let's not get that wrong.
Yeah.
And we should remember, Sri Lanka won the toss in both the ODIs, batted first.
Yeah.
So they chose to bat. They had a big advantage there. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. India should have restricted them to sub 200, and if not for his innings, they would have. And then sort of an interesting similar template in both the ODIs, right? So same 11 India played, but Rohit got off to a flyer in both cases, made half centuries in both matches. And he sort of said this in the press conference. So he plays high risk, high reward cricket. That's the role he wants to play, even in the ODI format, get that he gets runs, but there's some risk with it. And India looked to be cruising, to be honest. And, after about 12, 13 overs, Gill got out. Then Rohit got out pretty quickly after. Then Sundar came in at 4, which was an interesting choice, and got out. Virat got out by the 23rd over. And then the wickets just started to fall consistently. Still, when Rahul and Akshar were batting, you thought it was a done deal. Then you thought, oh gosh, they've both gotten out again relatively quickly. I think 39.4 and 40.5. So within 7 balls of each other. And then you still felt like when Dubey was batting first with Kuldeep, then with Siraj, that it was going to get there. And long story short, Dubey off of Asalanka in 3 overs from the end hits a boundary to tie things up, and you think it's a done deal. And then both the last guys get out when the scores are tied off of back-to-back balls. I mean, shocking, absolutely shocking. Having just tied it, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't allow that to happen. It should never have got there. Even when it got there, when you're tied, I mean, from Arshdeep's lens, when scores are tied, just do the bare minimum. But now, again, I come back to it. Don't blame the number 11 batter when the first 8 guys who are in the team to be specialist batters couldn't do it. But it's still fairly shocking. DJ, why was there no super over here? Is that just ODI bilateral versus T20? It would have been fun to see another super over back to back.
I have no idea, man. I actually have no idea. But maybe it was that the game was already 50 overs long. People were done by 100 overs. They were like, let's go home.
Yeah, ready to go home.
So they didn't want 102 overs. But see, again, what I want to get your take on is we promoted Washington. It didn't really come off. So what's changed since the World Cup? Obviously, there's no Hardik Pandya, but we didn't have Pandya to the back end of the World Cup either. We have, let's say, Shivam Dubey's replaced Pandya like for like, quote unquote.
In terms of team structure, that's correct. Yeah.
You don't have, even today, Dubey came in at 4. You don't have that stability at number 4. Now, of course, you had a floating batting order in the T20 World Cup, and there were a lot was made about that floating batting order when with Rohit said, only me and Virat will open the batting, everybody else can bat anywhere.
Yeah, but that's a completely different format.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Does that necessarily work for ODI cricket? Because
I don't understand why you've selected Iyer to bat at 4 if you don't trust him at 4 and Rahul at 5. Now, it's a different discussion to say you're batting first and your openers or your top 3, let's say, get you to 225 for 2 in 32 overs. And then you're saying I have a shot at 400. I'm going to bring in promote Dubey, promote, I guess, if we're playing Hardik at the time, etc., and maybe leave Rahul and Iyer to be a little later if they get out early. I understand that. Not when you're chasing 230, not when the wickets are clearly difficult. You pick Iyer because you say he's the best player to spin in the side, or maybe not best, one off. You pick him basically for his ability to play spin. And on a big spinning wicket, you say, I'm going to send Sundar at 4 one day and Dubey at 4 the next day. I mean, and then Akshar came in after Dubey, which I think Rohit has since said, lefty righty. And don't get me wrong, Akshar played well today, but man, just there's no point. Don't pick him. Don't pick a batter to bat at 4 in an ODI. I mean, you just think of a lot of the ODI greats and their batting positions being cemented, right, from the Pontings to the Sachins of the world. The idea that you'd promote, yes, the game has changed on them, but the idea that you promote somebody else it's like saying we sent Ajay Jadeja randomly over Sachin in certain ODI. It's just unthinkable. You just wouldn't have, right? Or Robin Singh would walk in ahead of Sachin. Maybe he did at some point.
He did it. He used to actually at some point when Sachin was dropped to 4 because they wanted to protect him in one Sharjah tournament. But that's what I wanted to speak to you about, because
I don't agree with
it
that.
It seemed odd where you've got a guy who was successful relatively at the World Cup. I think Gaya scored probably 200 at the World Cup.
Yeah.
Suddenly being dropped to 5. Now, the question becomes for me, right? Who's your best wicketkeeper batter? For me, the answer to that is Rishabh Pant, even in ODI.
Do you pick wicket-keeping as a higher-ranked skill or batting as a higher-ranked skill, or equal?
I mean, whoever gives you the better package, right? Overall.
Okay.
So he gave it equal weightage. Who gives you the highest outcome there? For me, that's Rishabh.
Do you think there's a world where, given that, but do you think there's a world which we've never thought about for a while, but given that you're playing Dubey and Akshar and Sundar, that we're saying we have too many lefties? Like, is that the balance they're potentially trying to strike?
Yeah, but the question is, Dubey is not going to play if Hardik is fit, right?
Yeah. So then that, I think you may be saying Dubey, Rahul, or Hardik, Rishabh. Maybe your two options in terms of protecting.
Hardik, Rishabh to me are the best all-rounder spot.
I just don't know if we know if Hardik can bowl 10. And maybe he doesn't need to if you're getting overs out of Sky especially.
Yeah.
But maybe he doesn't need to.
But even today, Dubey only bowled 2 overs, right? It was a spinning track, whatever.
True.
But Dubey looks, I don't know, do you see him in the field? I don't know, Ashwin, whether you watched him in the field.
I didn't, unfortunately, no.
He doesn't seem limber and fit and a guy that's young and patrolling the boundary like a young Hardik or even a Vijay Shankar, man. He was a good fielder. Dubey he's remodeled his action. He's a bit quicker. He bats well, but he doesn't seem like a long-term ODI prospect. He can probably just about manage a T20 game.
It's also, to be very clear, he's older than Hardik, right? He hasn't been in the scene that long.
What,
Dubey is 31 and Hardik is 30. So he is older.
Yeah. So I actually didn't.
Yeah.
But he looks stiffer, less flexible. I don't know whether he gets through a ODI game with the energy that he should. So for me, the question becomes, if you bring in Pant, say, to do the wicketkeeper batter spot, then is KL versus Shreyas for that number 4 spot or number 5 spot, whatever you want to go with. If you think you want a lefty at number 4.
Yeah.
And that should be the straight shootout between those two guys because they're both batters. KL can keep, which is incidental.
And then all of that actually also changes post 2025, if you will, right? If you assume Champions Trophy is the last hurrah for Rohit and Kohli, maybe it's not. Maybe they're trying to play through 27.
But it's
then
being played in England, right?
Yeah.
That's the key. That's why Dubey is being backed because Shardul is useless.
Yeah.
Hardik is unreliable.
And then Sundar type players aren't making the cut. Like a spinning.
They won't make it in. They won't do it in the Champions. So this is all planning for the Champions Trophy. So
yeah. Anyway, not a lot to write home about now. The second ODI, actually very similar template. Sri Lanka batted first, a little more stability than relying on one lower order guy, but 240 they made. Big difference being India played the same 11, and Sri Lanka made one key change in bringing in the leg spinner who's played before against India, Jeffrey Vandersay.
Sir Joffrey.
I mean, there was a point when it looked like he would take all 10. Honestly, he was 6. He took all of the first 6 wickets, ended up with figures of 6 for 33. And then it still looked like it was, doable because of Rohit's good start. And then Lanka picked up 3 more and it was a done deal. But 208 all out. I mean, just very disappointing. Dubey got out for a duck. Shreyas made single digits. Rahul made single digits. So all the names you've talked about, yes, one match does not a career define, but really disappointing. So as they go into the third ODI, DJ, last question, very quick as we have to wrap up. Going to the third ODI, the names you have on the bench are, I'm double checking, I think, obviously Harshit Rana as a quick, you have Riyan Parag and Rishabh Pant that can bat. I don't know if you need to change Harshit or Khalil. We don't have another spinner on the bench, which is disappointing. But do you see a Riyan or a Rishabh getting an opportunity in the third ODI? Actually, maybe Riyan, who gives you spinning options because they are playing at the same ground.
So I think they'll continue to play the same side because they're just going with that. I would have liked to actually see Rishabh get a game. I would like to see Riyan Parag get a game. I think Parag would come in at the expense of Washington. And Rishabh should come in at the expense of KL. It seemed a bit harsh to drop KL for a couple of games or play KL and drop Iyer. I don't know. But And I was saying part of this is also KL and Rahul are a little bit rusty. KL and Shreyas are a little bit rusty, right? They haven't played the World Cup. They haven't played a lot of Test cricket. So maybe there's an element of that. But under the Dravid era, everybody got a game in every series. So if you follow that template, I think we will probably see some changes in the third game, particularly since now Sri Lanka can't lose a series and India have lost an ODI game, not a series, against Sri Lanka for the first time in 3 years. India has not lost a series to Sri Lanka since 1997. I mean, the peak moment was the Virat Kohli dismissal, right? Because they were pretty unhappy as well before he got dismissed. There was a bit of, let's say, there was a bit of chatter around the bat because they thought they'd got him earlier. And interestingly, Gambhir and Kohli are sitting next to each other in the dressing room as well, which is the other interesting bit about all of this.
Yeah, let's wrap up with just overall how you're feeling about Gambhir dynamic. Interesting to see Gambhir with Kohli, Gambhir and Rohit. You know, all of the buzz before the ODI series started was is this the pair that's going to get us to a Champions Trophy? And now they're fighting for survival in a. What do you feel about it? Like, is it too early to say is the real answer?
It's very early to say. I do enjoy these low-scoring games because it lets the weaker team in as well. I mean, let's be honest. If this was played on a flat deck at, I don't know, Bangalore or Mohali or somewhere, India would have won this. The fact that it's been played on slightly ropey, slightly spinning wickets, we're not playing our we're not playing spin well. This kind of like, these are tough test match wickets that this has been played on. So it's kind of quite old school cricket in a way. It's 230s or 240s of winning score. So you have to mentally recalibrate from having to score 360 every game to win the game. So I think it's way too early. I think the conditions in the Champions Trophy will be very, very different. And Gambhir has come in with that 1-point agenda to win ICC trophies.
Yeah.
So I think that's the grand scheme of things. That's why Dubey is getting this run, even though I don't think he deserves to be in the ODI team. Yeah.
All right. That brings us to a wrap. DJ, we'll come back next week to talk about the third ODI, how the series ended, and hopefully some more insights like you alluded to briefly about the IPL auction criteria, etc. It's going to be interesting. Lots of debate happening, or at least rumors of lots of debate happening between franchise owners, etc. I don't know if it's real or not, but at least the schedule seemed to say India doesn't play a match again until September 18th. So I don't know what we're going to do with ourselves, because by the end of next week, the Olympics will be done and India doesn't have cricket for 6 weeks. So we'll figure it out. There'll be something to watch. I know I haven't paid any attention whatsoever to the 100, but maybe that'll be the only thing on. So that's what
that's Test cricket. I'm going to the Test matches at the Oval, and Sri Lanka is coming to England.
Got it. So that may be worth,
there's a bit of Test cricket
worth watching and covering. Thank you all for joining.
At least Varun will know. Varun will know more than 2 players in the Sri Lanka team. Varun was actually at the ground.
He was. I don't know if you heard last week. We put a call out to see if he can get tickets. I don't actually know if somebody reached out to him or if he just ended up being able to buy them. But he was at the second ODI, which was very exciting. Right, DJ, that brings us to a wrap. Thank you everybody for listening. onetip1hand@gmail.com, at onetip1hand on all the social medias. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave us a comment below. We listen. As many of you have seen, we read all of them, and we try to respond to as many as we can. So thank you very much for writing in. This is the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast, signing off.